Welcome to Damon Bruce Plus. It's great to have you here. Brought to you by Ike Sandwiches, and we are joined by longtime friend, broadcasting legend JT the Brick on a day where we're officially sort of putting the Coliseum to bed. Oakland losing yet another team, JT. I thought it would be the right day for us to circle together, talk a little football, and talk about some memories in the Coliseum. How are you, brother?
Good to be with you, my friend. I can't imagine a broadcast coming on immediately following the last out at the Oakland Coliseum. We got to be the first or one of the first, and it's kind of bittersweet today. I'm sure we'll get into it. I got a lot of memories at the Oakland Coliseum, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've been there for game after game after game. Your time with the Raiders, your time around the A's, your time in the Bay, our time covering Bay Bridge series together. I was there for the final night game, and I tell you, it felt a little bit like an open casket wake. They lose. I'm glad that they won their last game. You know, what is that going to do to make anybody feel better about this? It'll do absolutely nothing. But you got to hear Celebrate one last time at the Coliseum, and that's a good thing. Before we get into all that, though, brother, there are very few football seasons where it feels like 3 weeks in, the 49ers can absolutely match the Raiders in terms of questions and what is happening, and it's hard to understand some of these performances. But I'll tell you what I think is really going on. We're looking around an NFL that is designed to officially be weird 3-4 weeks into, I think, all the seasons that we're about to cover, because September is the new preseason for the NFL, and a hard to predict league gets even harder in the early going now.
Well, first, from a gambling perspective, the Survivor contests have been wiped out. Week 1, Cincinnati loses to New England. Week 2, Baltimore loses to the Raiders. Week 3 was even crazier. The 4 consensus lost. When you look at what's happened so far this year, you just nailed it. The preseason doesn't matter much when players should be playing. They should be getting more reps in. Plus, we're in an era now where there's no padded practices, period. So even if you had a bad loss like the Raiders did to Carolina, which I should be sitting here talking 2-1, they can't even go out and practice the following week because half the team is injured and you don't want to hurt anybody else in a padded practice. And then you get to all the other teams that are injured and hurt. And from the Niners, you know that Niners-Rams game, I don't think you'll ever have a game where that many big-time players were injured in week 3. And I can see week 17. But you look at Kittle and McCaffrey and Debo and Puka, and you go through the IR in that game. You're like, how do they even put this game on as a television show? So this is a wild year. It's like nothing I've seen in recent times. The combination of everything coming together. I mean, Jaguars 0-3, Cincinnati 0-3, Dallas 1-2, maybe about to go 1-3. The league's upside down.
Last time you and I hopped on YouTube together, it was preseason, and we were talking about how it felt like the league had guaranteed the Raiders an 0-2 start, starting with the Chargers in the Harbaugh debut, re-debut, and then you get another Harbaugh with the Baltimore Ravens just sitting there. What a game that was. I mean, you want to talk about weird starts, 0-2 Ravens, because they bite the bullet at home against the Raiders, who win in overtime, who then come back to get Carolina, bringing in the Red Rocket and Andy Dalton. And now the Panthers look like world beaters right after we were about to say, maybe the Raiders are better than we thought they were. You can't say that a week later. What is the yin and the yang going on here with this football team?
Well, there's a lot going on. First off, as I told you the last time we're on, I think they're better than the national media gives them credit for. And by beating Baltimore, you saw a final 12 minutes and 10 seconds where Antonio Pierce outcoached John Harbaugh. Brock Bowers took over a game, right, who could be the offensive rookie of the year. Minshew, coming out of that game, led the NFL through only 2 weeks in completion percentage. Devontae off to a good start. Max with a bunch of sacks off to a good start. And you're going, wow, there was only one game on the entire schedule they had to win. One. The Carolina game. They're going to win games. They're going to lose games. They might beat Miami. They don't have Tua. They might beat whatever. The one game you couldn't lose, the gimme was the home opener. Now, people called me gamblers. Well, it's a trap game. I said, no, it's not, because it's the home opener. If it was week 5 and they already had the home opener, they went on the road back and forth. Yeah, I'd agree with you. Home opener, no Carolina fans were there, like Niner fans trying to take over the stadium at Vegas or SoFi. And Carolina came out because Dalton was different. Ball came out quick. Raiders were in shell shock. It was like a Tyson fight. You got punched in the face. Next thing you know, you're trailing. You can't get back into the game. And they lose a game that they should have won. And 2-1 would have looked really good around here in Vegas, considering most of the league is upside down at 1-2. It was a blown opportunity. Then Antonio Pierce goes. So I host the postgame show and the pregame show. Pre-game show, we're in front of 5,000 people. Post-game show, I'm in the booth, and literally they're cleaning out the stadium. The cleaning crew's there. And I'm taking calls, and we find out that Antonio Pierce says, quote, some players made a business decision. Oh, my God. You don't say that unless it's week 16, 17, and guys are packing up to go to Cancun. Guys don't want to get hurt and spend the whole offseason rehabbing an MCL. And it was very vague on what happened. He was just getting after the team, which I enjoy, because if you're going to smoke cigars in the locker room after victories and hug the players, there's another side to that. And Pierce won a Super Bowl with the Giants. So we've been dealing with that all week. And how do you go from your worst possible loss and then come back the following week at home and get a win? And it's a must win against Cleveland on Sunday.
It's funny, there's no such thing, right, as a trap game in September. It's too early for trap games. It's also too early for must wins. But that's what I feel like the 49ers are looking at here. I mean, there are a million miles still left in this NFL regular season. But to have now the New England Patriots coming in with the worst offensive line in football, while you got your defensive line problems, while Hargrave is lost for the rest of the year, while your secondary is looking slow, while Christian McCaffrey is sitting in Germany. It's not like he's at Oktoberfest. He's not eating bratwurst over there. He's getting a knee checked, and they're talking about he could miss an entire year. I mean, who the hell knows what that is? Plus Debo, plus Ayuk, plus your first-round draft pick was shot in broad daylight, plus just this scrutiny around the Niners. I mean, anything less than a perfect game in a win, people get angry at out here. You understand the standard that this team has always been measured by. They're chasing ghosts. They're chasing Super Bowls. The only thing that they're guilty of is not winning a Super Bowl, but boy, they are guilty as hell of that. They can spend the rest of their lives in prison. They're so guilty of not winning a Super Bowl with a really good team last year. That hurt at Allegiant Stadium. But man, it's been a remarkably difficult year in a year where it was built to like, okay, so you're going to have a smooth preseason, and then you got your easy lifting in the front portion of your schedule, and then it gets hard as hell.
Right.
And they're already all tripped up, and it hasn't even gotten hard as hell yet.
Well, there's two teams that concern me that were good or great in the offseason. It was the Niners and the Bengals. The Bengals more so because they historically have a very cheap owner, as you know, in Mike Brown. I mean, he barely had clean towels. He barely fed them on the plane. I mean, he's the cheapest owner in the history of the NFL. So you got Jamar Chase chirping about a contract, and then all of a sudden you got T. Higgins doesn't want to be franchise tagged. Hey, shut up. The owners are allowed to franchise tag you. You collectively bargained in your insane contracts that are insane that there's one advantage that the owners have. They can collectively agree to franchise tag you. So I said, man. And then Joe Burrow blondes his hair, and then he goes to Paris for a fashion show. I go, uh-oh. I don't remember Steve Young. I don't remember Montana doing that.
When you walk into an NFL locker room dressed like a Ken doll, we're going to have problems.
So Cincinnati was very greedy in the offseason, and they're rightfully so. But the Niners, one of the most flamboyant teams, going back to Eddie DeBartolo, taking the organization to Hawaii after every season, every Super Bowl, the best rings, and all that. And then I said, oh, listen to this. Okay, we got Ayuk with the noise, and Trent Williams wants to be a mercenary. He wants to still get paid. He's at the end of his career. He always made money, and he wants a little bit more late. I said, this team getting a little bit greedy, and now the injuries no one could predict it. But unlike the other teams you mentioned, I think the Niners are good enough. When they start to get healthy, they'll go on a big run, and they'll I don't want to say easily make the playoffs, but I feel pretty comfortable they're going to chase down the Seahawks. Come on.
I do think so too. I mean, there's a long way to go here, and I don't think they've rounded into shape yet. And that has been reflected in their early season struggles here. They're going to get healthier. They're going to get more bodies back. They hopefully get McCaffrey back, and that would be a big game changer. JT, you and I met years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking not even KNBR 1050 days. It was Ticket 1050 days. Yeah. And I was a board op and I was a producer, and you were all around the Raiders. You were doing pregame and postgame shows then. I want you to indulge me for a little bit as we talk about the closing of the Coliseum, a building that you have spent an awful lot of time in. Look at this, brother. Look at this.
Yeah.
That banner hung for years in the end zone at the Coliseum. Before we start talking about your memories, take me into the meeting that approved that banner. I'm guessing it's you, someone with the Raiders, maybe Tony Salvador. Who is in the meeting when you're saying, I want a JT the Brick banner in the end zone for the Black Hole?
Well, there's only one guy, the guy to my right as I'm standing looking towards the field, Black Hole Rob Rivera, who died 3 years ago, almost to the day, the founder.
Here you are, right? Yeah, this is you.
Me, and then the guy next to me with the hat on backwards. So this is a cool story. I'm born and raised a Giant fan in New York. And, I get this big opportunity after winning the Jim Rome Smack Off, the first one. Bruce Allen is the GM at the time. He hears me on the radio taking all these calls in the middle of the night because I was doing midnight to 5 a.m. overnight, which cleared on KMBR so he could hear it. Long story short, they hire me and move me to the Bay Area. And I had one chance to make an impression. So I went to the Black Hole and I said, look, I'm not one of you. I grew up, I was in love with Stabler. I like the Raiders, but if you guys don't accept me, this isn't going to work. And that guy, Black Hole Rob, looked at me and said, hey, we need a voice. As long as you don't do us dirty, you're one of us, and we'll give you a chance. And I went all in because a lot of people don't understand, and you know this from Greg Papa, from you moving from another market to me and my job. When you get hired by a team and work for the team, you're all in. Even if you have another fan base, your loyalty goes to who you work for and that. So I got immersed with the Raiders, and Black Hole Rob said, you're in. And then my first year with the Raiders in 98, playoffs, 99, 2000, Super Bowl. So in my first 4 years, 4 trips to the playoffs, trip to the Super Bowl, and 2 AFC championship games. I thought that was going to be every year. Every year. What could you imagine? 4 for 4. And doing all this, got an AFC championship ring, should have been a Super Bowl ring. And then the Black Hole inducted me as their first ever member in their Hall of Fame. And they have 100+ people in their Hall of Fame. So that banner meant everything to me because that was my dedication to that notorious fan group, which is still vibrant now in Vegas. And that's how I got my start with the Raiders, right there.
I mean, the Coliseum was an event unto itself. There were times when that building, and I'll say this, I say this with the utmost respect. And I love this about going to Raiders games at the Coliseum when that was available. I don't think this is going to be put in any promo. There was an element of violence in there. There was an element of this place is about to pop off. That was, I mean, I thought it made it magical. I really did. Like, I was joking around. Like, you'd go to a Raider game, you would go to a tailgate, and it felt like a little bit of an NFL game mixed with a Mad Max movie, and we are all about 25 minutes away from fighting over gasoline. Like, it was, the fans, the city of Oakland, it was its own vibe. There was a vibe around the Raiders, and of course there was a vibe around the A's that just, it could only come from Oakland. Look, I mean, I've watched the bumbling, stumbling, cannot get it right Golden State Warriors grow up into the biggest business in the NBA, doing bigger business than the New York Knicks. I mean, it's like watching an idiot kid go to Harvard. Like that's how the idiot in middle school is now a Harvard graduate when it comes to the life cycle I've seen with the Golden State Warriors. And look, there's no going back. Chase Center is incredible, but a little bit of soul, of that team will never be quite like it is again because it's no longer in Oakland. There's something about that Coliseum, those fans, that parking lot that had a little bit of magic in it, man. And it does hurt to think that the Bay Area scene doesn't get it anymore.
No, it's one of the biggest lost cities in the history of sports. I call it a lost city because it didn't need to happen that way. We don't have enough time to do politics, nor do I want to. I try to keep politics out of sports, but what happened overall with the dirty deals, what happened behind Mark Davis's back with the A's secret 10-year lease, when they really could have got something going, really launched the Raiders to become now a top 5 team in all of sports in the billions. So they're about to jump into the top 5 because of the revenue of Vegas, the sweetheart deal they got with the hotel tax, all that stuff. And the fact that this Vegas is unbelievable with no state taxes and building. But going back to my years in Oakland, what made it fabulous was I lived up there a few years, as you recall. I commuted for 17. Let me repeat that. For 17 years, I commuted twice a week. So Tuesday or Wednesday, I do the TV show Behind the Shield, up and down into Burbank or Vegas. And then on game day, I'd have to fly up. You couldn't do that today with the airlines. You couldn't fly up game day because if you don't make it up and the flight gets canceled, you don't show up at your job. Right. So that was me staying at the Oakland Airport Hilton the night before or the night after the game. That was me taking BART or Air BART to the game. That was me being able to sneak in an A's game when a Raider game, when they were switching back and forth. I have so many memories at the Coliseum of walking in off a BART, someone on that overhand cracking me a beer, me slamming a beer, going into a tailgate, doing a shot of Cuervo or whatever it was at the time, having another beer, and then walking in with a credential on, right onto the field and watching the greatest players over a 25-year period warm up. I was at the Brett Favre game, the legendary Favre game after his dad died. I was at the Jeter game with the Yankees, a famous play. All of those plays afforded me the opportunity to go to Oakland. And whenever I got there as a New York sports fan, I said, man, this place is hardcore. You got to have your head on a swivel. You got to be ready because these fans are ready. And it's some of the best memories I have in my life.
Being an East Coaster, I bet you it was out in that parking lot where you tried your first ever tri-tip. Tri-tip wasn't big on the East Coast. You come out and that's all that the Raiders fans are grilling up. The food, the smell of the Coliseum parking lots. It was barbecue. It was tacos. It was salsa. It was weed. It was cigarettes. It was gasoline. It was
and it was A's games too. I want to get that point out here. I win a mutual friend who listens to you all the time, Chris in West Oakland. He would invite me out for A's games. And I usually went when the Yankees were in town. The next thing you know, we're in the middle of the parking lot at Oakland. And there's 3 tailgates going with tri-tip beer. And, batting practice is going on. And everybody's doing the same thing, having a shot of Crown Royal, going into the place. And I'm saying, this is incredible. But, Damon, the root of this, which didn't work, was the football, baseball stadium contraption. So Janikowski kicking off the dirt. Right? Someone getting a kickoff return, making a move, ready to go to the house, slipping on the dirt. The A's having to play with football stadium lines there. They screwed that up so bad. What should have happened, and I've said it 1,000 times, is the size of the 880 freeway with a BART station right there. The fact that they could have put a baseball stadium separate with a football stadium in one of the biggest markets in the world. And I'm talking before the birth of Sand Hill Road. I'm going to stand up in Silicon Valley. We're talking about a time where Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, Elon Musk now, you had the richest people in the world, the Stanford, Cal. People had more money than the world could have, than overseas, and they couldn't figure it out. And my big picture thing is, and I know a lot of your listeners aren't going to agree with this, but I've lived by it. Owners don't want to own the dirt. They don't have to. If Jerry Jones and Kroenke want to build the stadium because they have billions, let them do it. Mark Davis never had the money to go put concrete in and pour concrete and build it. He was going to need some assistant. Maybe Lou Wolf and the A's needed the same thing. The politicians, in hindsight, if they just would have gave it to him, and people would have went nuts, why'd you give it to him? It would have worked, and they never would have left.
billion-dollar industries would remain, and they are now gone. I'll say this: if you want to talk about, concrete pours, Al Davis's concrete pour at the Coliseum ruined the Coliseum. It was never right for football. It certainly ruined the baseball experience. And the bad decisions, the wish you might have, hindsight always being 2020 that can be applied to so much of this is staggering. And John Fisher is just, one of the bigger genetic disappointments in the history of Bay Area billionaire children. He truly is. And what he's doing, I think, is so set up to fail either somewhere in Sacramento on its way to Las Vegas. As someone who lives in Las Vegas, JT, has anyone ever asked you,
No.
when are the A's coming? No. When do they get here? I cannot wait to buy A's season tickets. Has that sentence ever even been said to you in Las Vegas?
No, but it's a fair question because the problem for the A's is there's no buzz here. The Golden Knights got here first. What a home run. The Raiders are the NFL with a global brand before they got here. Vegas, as you know, has a global brand. The sports and entertainment capital of the world. Dana White with UFC, all the fighting, boxing, NASCAR. The problem...
Dude, you got a WNBA team that matters. You got the Sphere, which is like a thing unto itself.
Absolutely. So the good news for the A's is this. If they end up getting here, and I think you and I are a believer that they might not, or they won't. If they do get here, this city will galvanize and they will build something spectacular if they figure it out, and it'll happen and it'll work because the casinos will buy up the tickets and they'll give them to comps and they'll give them to people. Now, on a Tuesday night when the Royals are in town, today it's September 26th on my phone. It's 101. Okay. It doesn't usually get to 101 this time of year. We had the most 115-degree days ever in the history of Nevada. And we just had that. So on a Tuesday night, the Royals and the Indians are in town. You're not going to get 42,000 on the corner of Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard.
Right, when it's still 98 degrees at 7:30 p.m.
But if they do end up getting here, the goal for if they do come is hopefully Fisher will sell. Now, typically, sports leagues don't let the owners do that. Why is that? Because they can say, I'm going to move the team, make enormous profits on the move, and then sell before they get here and make a massive profit. I believe that's the best chance the A's have. No one wants Fisher here. So if he sells, I think the commissioner, Rob Manfred, and the other owners will go, normally we don't want to make this a practice of selling before you get here, but we'll do it in this case to get him out because the owners don't want him. He's a terrible owner. I don't know him as a human being, but as an owner, he's terrible, and no one here in Vegas wants him. And he's not smart enough, and he doesn't deserve to copy the Mark Davis blueprint that Mark Davis worked with politicians and people behind the scenes to pull it off. He doesn't deserve this.
Well, I'll say this. My warning to the city of Las Vegas and my promise is that there will someday, without a doubt, be an expansion Major League Baseball team in Las Vegas. Get your own team. Have it be born of Las Vegas. And don't allow John Fisher, who decided after 56 years of, fans coming to the Coliseum, if you made it to the last ever series in Oakland, you got this, JT. Look at what you got. Not even 6 cents to produce fake ticket, which I guess doubles as a bookmarker, not even a bobblehead, nothing. I mean, this is the final souvenir ever handed out at the Coliseum. This piece of shit that I picked up last night and was handed in, look at this. Look at this. You spend more money printing hymnals at family funerals than John Fisher spent on this final funeral souvenir for A's fans. Do not be in the John Fisher business, city of Las Vegas. I caution you.
Let me ask you this. You would know better than anybody on this with Joe Lacob. I heard Larry Beal. He did that great rant on the news the other night. I played it on my show. I thought it was
Wasn't that great?
Really good. And is it true that Lacob would have bought the team? Like if it was, that's what Larry said. He goes, I got 3 billionaires who'll buy it.
tonight.
Okay.
Joe Lacob will buy them tonight.
So let's stop for a second. Then why doesn't Fisher sell to Joe Lacob?
Because John Fisher has this, I'm trying to prove to my father he should think I'm a success story going on. I think that he is. John Fisher is a paper billionaire right now because Gap stock is absolutely in the toilet. Nobody goes to malls to shop anymore. I don't know anybody who's wearing Gap anymore, so I think that this is a guy who has his ego attached to the real estate deal that he could never find, and he can't detach his ego from it now, even if it means, dude, you still get to walk away with billions of dollars. Like, just sell and go. He is trying so hard to prove that he can do it, when what I really think might happen, maybe more than anything else, JT, is there is going to be, look, if the Major League Union steps in and says, we're not going to play in Sacramento, that's going to maybe have opening day in Oakland next year anyways. Like, if you told me right now, would you be willing to put $10 on the A's having their opening day in Oakland next year? Yeah, I'd bet $10 on that. Sure. What kind of odds you giving me? Sure. Why not? Yeah, because there's nothing he can't screw up. But what feels like it's ripe to happen to me is for his team to get stuck in Sacramento and then have Vivek Ranadive of the Kings, who is a shark, smelling blood in the water and thinking, I can keep them in Sacramento. They ain't getting to Vegas. I could see that happening.
Yeah,
I could see Utah coming into the fix. Utah is expanding in sports in a way. They're probably never going to get an NFL team. So that means they got their hockey team. They got their NBA team. Maybe they can get a baseball team in Utah. So I think that these two, staying stuck in Sacramento, Utah coming into the conversation, Las Vegas being the ultimate goal, and a retreat point being Oakland, I think all four roads are still in play.
Yeah, let's leave Vegas out because it's 2028. It's 2028 when they come. So we're living in this live stream in 2024. I've always been Sacramento friendly from the Maloofs when they owned the Kings, going up there. A lot of Raider fans that I've met over the years. That would be a good fit. Having Aaron Judge play 2 years in a minor league ballpark won't go over well for the Union, but I think it'll work out if they were able to stay up there. A's fans could take the extended drive, see their team. They'd have more of a Northern California feel. But I don't know. The Giants, remember, the Giants over the decades were not very kind to any type of A's, Fremont expansion there or anything. So let's not forget that. But I would hope that they'd stay up in the Bay Area, man. I would hope that there'd be a Hail Mary, but the Hail Mary can't happen in Oakland because Oakland politicians who get voted in and out of office every 2 years, they're always gone. They don't make it long term. They blew it. They should have had pride in that beautiful team and brand, all those World Series and great players. I can understand the Chase Center and losing the Warriors. I can, but they maybe should have kept them. But losing the Raiders and the A's to the same city of Vegas. Remember,
and
the A's.
Look, man, it's not just the Warriors, the Raiders, and now the A's. They lost a racetrack, Golden Gate Fields Club. I mean, it's just, I understand the racing business is a little bit different in its own right, but the amount of reasons to go to the city of Oakland are dwindling, and that just can't be good for the future of businesses and people and hotels and restaurant workers and bartenders, and it's just all a shame. It really, really is, man. Meanwhile,
real quick on that. When I lived in San Francisco in 99, 2000, 2001, and no disrespect to Oakland because I love Oakland, I always got the feel that San Francisco was so big and so expensive. My rent at the time at 2 Townsend Place next to Momo's. Wow. I just figured people would want to live across the bridge in the East Bay in Oakland and commute, right? To take part, to drive over because they were working and living in San Francisco and they lived there for a little bit cheaper. And that would sustain, Damon, Oakland for the next 100 years. But economies change, business changes. And on top of what San Francisco could be going through in different business cycles, Oakland doesn't even have teams to support their fans and make their community vibrant anymore. It's a shame.
It really is. It really, really is. I tell you, I'm glad that I got to be here for that moment in time. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I got to see something. and what I know you'll agree with, and what I know that you've talked with an awful lot of Raiders fans who feel that their team abandoned them, the calls that you'll get from A's fans, Warriors fans, it really is like a generational robbery. Not only am I going to rob you of the team that you're rooting for today, but I'm going to kind of poach the memories that you had with your father, with your mother, with your grandfather who took you to games, and I'm going to deny you making those memories with your own children in the same seats that you and your father and your grandfather and your family sat in. Like, to me, that's the real crime here. It's generational memory robbery.
It's a great way of saying that. You got young boys. My kids are 23 and 21, and I'll always be able to, my kids will remember their trips to Oakland to see the Raiders and the Yankees. My sons remember that. It was such a big part of who they are today. Even though they have their teams here in Vegas, they're Raider fans. Both, I wasn't born a Raider fan. My sons were. And my sons were born Oakland Raider fans. They didn't live in Oakland, but they lived close by. And I look at just what happened in the last 10 years. And I wish we could go back into the hot tub time machine and fix it, because passionately for me, and the people who know me like you know what I'm about. I'm sincere about the passion I have for Oakland. The people that roll their eyes and shake their heads and say, no, you're not. You're with Mark Davis in Vegas. No, then you don't know me. Then you don't know the years. I commuted 17 years there. All the off days that I went there for tailgates and went to games. It was part of my DNA not to be a Bay Area sports fan, but just loved the Bay Area. I went to Day on the Green in 1982 and saw Ozzy Osbourne and Randy Rhoads before Randy Rhoads died weeks later in a plane crash. I've been to Napa. I've been to Jack London Square, Ricky's in San Leandro. I'm not sitting here today on the Damon Bruce Plus. I'm not here today if I don't have those years, because they gave me 10 to 12 of my 27 years on the radio where I could tell authentic stories. I don't waste my time on radio. I kind of stick to sports. I don't do a lot of that crap that's going on in radio now, where we're going to start our show in the first 20 minutes. We're going to talk about what I did with my wife last night, what I went to, what movie. I don't do that shit. I talk sports. And when I was in the Bay Area, there was so much sports going around. I had stories because I was standing in the black hole. I was tailgating. I understood what it was like to go to games and go to Warrior games where Eric Musselman was the head coach going, dude, can we fill that section and call it the brick section? Because we got nobody here when the Warriors were there. I miss Oakland, man. It was really good to me.
I'll tell you, Oakland misses you, brother. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When people talk to me,
not everybody, but I appreciate that.
When people talk to me about all of my radio memories, your name comes up quickly. You are in the tapestry of Northern California sports fans' memories forever. I mean, you're a part of it, and needless to say, you're doing so well for yourself. I'm so glad, everything in Vegas is working out for you. Meanwhile, did you make it to any of the Eagles shows at the Sphere? I know you got to Dead and Company a couple times. Have you been to the Eagles?
I'm going Saturday. So we got the Raiders Sunday. We got Fred Bolitnikov's Crab Fest tomorrow night. So I got to deal with this. I've been to the Sphere 4 times, twice for U2 and twice for Dead and Company. I was blown away by all of it. Didn't get a chance to go to Fish. I've seen the Eagles 10, 12 times at the MGM Grand and other venues here. I know it'll be great. Believe me, it'll be unbelievable here, but it's not going to be as good as Dead and Company. What Dead and Company put in, as you know, into that set and the changing of it every night compared to what U2 did, which was a beautiful job, but the U2 set was the same every night, pretty much. Dead and Company rolled everything over, rolled the videos over, the Bill Walton tribute, which you were at. It was just different. So my expectations for the Eagles are not as big as they would have been for Fish, Dead and Company, because I think those bands really took advantage of it.
But here's the thing. That place is so freaking amazing.
Yeah, it is.
That I guarantee you it blows away whatever expectations you might have. Mm-hmm. Do the Eagles have the iconography, the psychedelia that Fish and the Grateful Dead are just born to deliver to you? No, they don't. But they're going to do something in there that is so remarkable and so special. And what, Dana White's going to be doing a UFC fight in there soon?
He already did. He already did the UFC. They already
did it. It happened.
So check that out. On Mexican Independence Weekend, Canelo, they had 20,000 at T-Mobile. I went to that. And then the Sphere had 18 or 19,000 for UFC. So you have, and it's pure Mexican Americans. I'm telling you, when I say when the Mexican Americans come to Vegas for either Cinco de Mayo or Independence, it is massive. Combat Sports had 2 venues sold out. And Dana White, if you go online and look at it, was incredible. The good thing about the Eagles and the bands that are going to come next, reports are there's a big country artist that's going to announce a residency. If it's Garth Brooks, Zach Brown band, whoever it is, you can't fake Sphere. You can fake a band at Oracle. You could fake it at another venue. If you don't sound great, like Axl Rose can't play Sphere.
Right.
Vince Neil can't play Sphere. Neil Young, who I love, it's not going to work for him. You have to be your lead vocalist and your harmonies have to be at an iconic level or you'll get exposed. You'll get exposed.
Well, look at it this way. No Fish fan ever said I'm here for the vocals and the harmony, but boy, we got everything else. It was so good catching up with you, brother. I think Jillian's actually got a conference that might be bringing her to Vegas in December. If I can tag along, I hope you and I can do dinner, man. Always great to see you. As you mentioned, 24 years old, 21 years old, your boys now.
23 and 21, yeah.
23 and 20. Okay, so you got 2 years apart. I got 2 years apart, but mine are 5 and 3. Brace me for the next 18 years. What should I be looking for?
Those were, as my wife talks about, the greatest years in our life. We both got them out of the double strollers. They became toddlers. They started walking, and that was, a lot of the Bay Area years for us to go to, the wharf and take them there on the Marina Green and to go see the spectacular settings that we did back in the day, right at Oracle at the time, ballpark, and the memories of them sitting there. But these are the best years in your life, man, and they go fast. And I'll tell you, both my kids, I got a senior in college at ASU, and my son graduated last year from Oklahoma. The advice I'll give you is high school is the longest time. It's going to feel like 10 years. High school takes forever. Then they get to college and they're home in like a year. You're like, you're graduating? College goes like this. So you got a ways to go, but I'm going to come up and see you. And I need to get back to the city of San Francisco. I see myself at the bar at the North Star, my old joint, having a cold Modelo, then walking out to Little Italy, going to, at North Beach, going to one of my favorite restaurants, the North Beach restaurant. I need to get back to that.
I think North Beach closed.
I don't tell me that.
I swear to God.
Is Cafe Sport still open? That's got to be open.
Yes, that is still there, I we'll take care of you when you get out here for sure. But man, it was so good seeing you. If nothing else, we'll just pull up and we'll get a sandwich at Ike's, baby. We'll go get some sandwiches at Ike's. I know you can get those in Vegas. You can get Ike's anywhere. It's growing. It's an empire. And I'll tell you, I had a great time at that game last night. My boys at the Dubliner, JT, in West Portal had a suite. They invited me along. Their friend from childhood, Johnny Gomes, was there. So I got to be with a former Ray at my last ever Rays game. It was a great thing, great time. And it's always a great time with you, brother. You take care of yourself. And hey, let's circle back in about a month and we'll update these NFL teams. Sound good?
Yeah, and your audience, it's JT the Brick YT. YT's for YouTube. Just launched it a while ago. We'd love you to subscribe. JT the Brick YT. My own YouTube channel. Check it out.
Do it now. JT the Brick YT. It's so good to see you, brother.
Take care.
There he is. The one, the only. Remember, folks, sports don't build character. They reveal it.